Welcome to the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Landon.
Good day. Welcome back.
All right, first of all, we want to apologize to anyone who was expecting an episode about Creed last week. In fact, the entire Creed trilogy. We fully intended to do that episode and provide it in a timely manner. However, due to circumstances beyond our control, it just wasn't meant to be. But we do hope to circle back around to Creed eventually and deliver on that discussion at some point. But for now, we've decided to move on and stick to our planned schedule, which means we've got something else in mind for this week's episode. And Landon, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello, Sydney.
Yeah. You ever say that to your kid?
Yeah.
Hello, Sydney. Does she get it yet?
Yeah, I know, right? No, not at all. But I do this so many times with many references with my kids, that I'll say some movie line. They're just like, huh? I'm like, the only one that they probably know well would be, I have a bad feeling about this.
Excellent. That's a good one to know.
And then also we will say to each other, this is the way. And then the other one very well should say back, this is the way. And if they don't say it back, well, it's a punishable offense.
It is. That sounds fair in every household.
You have to go bathe in the mines of Mandalore.
Oh, yeah. You are apostate. So this week we are getting into the Scream trilogy. If you didn't pick up from that, from the question, what's your favorite scary movie? In my best ghost face voice, we will be in and out of the fictional California town of Woodsboro as we work our way through the entire Scream franchise, including Scream 6, which opened in theaters this past weekend. Now, as we'll be talking about each of these movies, and they are all well known for their twists or surprise endings, a spoiler alert must be given. But for the first 5 movies, that's on you. All right. These especially the first 3 that have been out for more than 20 years. Yeah. But Scream 5 has been out for more than a year. Scream 6, we will give you a decent spoiler warning when we get to that point, because that it's a brand new movie. We're not going to spoil that for people who don't want to be spoiled. But first, for the overall franchise, Landon, what are your thoughts on the mark that this franchise has made on the horror genre?
I've always been a big fan. So the first one came out in 95 or something 96, like that. 96. So I was 15 years old. So this is like the perfect time for me to watch this movie. And not everybody that was at my age range maybe had seen it or would have seen it at that time in my grade. Some people would have, but I was like one of those that saw all the movies. And so I loved it, and as I came to meet my wife later in college, we referenced it, and she hates scary movies, hates them. But this is the one movie that she actually loves. I think part of it's the star-studded cast, that you get, but it's just a fun movie. So the series, I remember thinking to myself, you could always depend on a Scream movie, right? You had the first one, then you had the second one, and then you had the third one in the proper trilogy fashion. And the first one was amazing, groundbreaking. Second one was, I thought, still good, because one of the things I love about the movie is how they really comment on what they're doing. They're like, oh, it's a sequel. We're in a sequel. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like
it's always meta.
They don't break the fourth wall, but they sure do crack it.
Oh yeah.
And that's always been fun. And they even for this latest installment, they did the same thing. They had the same reference. They're like, the second one's in the college, and you're like, yep, that's right. So I like them all. And I don't think there's any one, although there's ones I like more than the others, I wouldn't say that I loathe any one of them, like we've said with other series. What about you?
Same way. I really, as far as horror movies go, I would say if I'm going to pick a franchise that I would say is a favorite, this is it. Because it takes so many elements from other horror genre, other franchises, and really just other standalone horror movies as well, paying homage to everything from Halloween to Nightmare on Elm Street. It covers the whole gamut. So it's just like a hodgepodge of everything. If you love horror movies, there's no way you're not going to love Scream.
Right.
So we have got 6 movies to get through, and that's a lot. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
Scream, the original, 1996, was a Christmas release, if you believe that.
Was it Christmas, really?
Yeah, December 20th. It was directed by horror legend Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, starring a who's who of 90s teen actors: Nev Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Jamie Kennedy, along with Courtney Cox, who had already, gained some fame already with Friends and, of course, Masters of the Universe.
Of course.
David Arquette and Drew Barrymore, who was probably the biggest name in the movie. It pulled down $173 million at the box office, currently holds an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Man, it was a big deal that Drew Barrymore got killed off in the first 10 minutes. Oh, wait, spoilers. Spoilers, everybody.
I know.
Minutes of the movie, and you've got your biggest actress killed off right away. And
yeah,
wow.
But like starting off too, just like you open up with the phone call. There's not like any you just fall right into it, right?
Yeah.
You just start right there.
There's no build up. There's no like ramping up to the action. It's just like,
no,
we're gonna put you right into the middle of this thing,
right?
And oh, by the way, the person you thought was the star of the movie, she's dead. So that means no one is safe. Like,
no one's safe.
Yeah. Everybody is expendable.
Right. One of the things that I really love about it is the score, the music score.
Oh my gosh.
In the first one, the Red Right Hand, and then of course Dewey's little yeah, that whole thing. I love all that stuff. It's pretty fun to watch. I love the fact that it's meant to be a little campy at places. Like Dewey's character is absolutely campy, and it's supposed to be that way. That's who he is. Sure. I don't know the actor that plays what's the movie friend, the one who does the rules.
Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy, yeah. So Jamie Kennedy's there's some people like, how do you not know Jamie Kennedy? I just forgot the name for a second.
He hasn't really been anything since the early 2000s. So
no, I know, but everybody remembers the Jamie Kennedy project, So, but even his character, he's outrageous. It's a little campy, but then there's other elements that are not campy. As you have Nev Campbell's character, and you have Skeet Ulrich, and then you have, Stu, as Matthew Lillard. I mean, that whole thing and their whole group of friends and that whole dynamic, that's like, I mean, that's high school. That was like your teen movie.
Right? Oh yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the campiness of it. I think that's very intentional as far as how they went into this movie. It's a horror movie, yeah, but there's a lot of comedy to it as well, and they're clearly in some way satirizing the slasher subgenre, and they are at the same time pointing out the tropes that you see in every single one of these movies that we've gotten since the mid 70s. Where you've got the same sort of characters again and again. You've got the same kind of plot again and again. They make the same mistakes over and over again.
Right.
And when Randy pulls out the 3 rules, of surviving a horror movie, it's perfect. And had, like, really, when you think about it, had anybody really done that before? I mean, certainly not on film. I'm sure discussions had been going around, throughout the 80s and 90s about, all right, so these are the things you have to do to survive a horror movie.
Right.
And it's just like, it's a joke at parties or whatever. But then you've got Randy here. He is the definitive, like, expert on horror movies. And he's at this party at the end of the movie. He's like, these are the rules. There are 3 of them. Spells it out. You can't have sex, you can't drink or do drugs, and you never say I'll be right back, because you won't.
You won't.
It's perfect the way he pulls
Unless you're
that
the
out.
killer. Unless you're one of the killers.
Yeah, you can get away with it then. I think that's the exception to the rule.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, I like how it definitely has a bit of a satire to it. It talks about those elements, even makes fun of those elements without necessarily disrespecting the genre. So you can see other movies that are meant to be like Scary Movie. It's totally meant to make fun of it. It's totally meant to be silly. This is, not at all that. This is almost paying homage to the genre, that can still make fun of itself without disrespecting the fullness of it.
absolutely. Did you know that? Sorry, what were you? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you know when you first saw it that they were going to be the bad guys at the end, or was that surprising to you?
Oh gosh, no.
I didn't know.
I remember. So I didn't see it early on. I think I didn't see it until like February, when it was released at like the Grandin Theater here in Roanoke. At that point in time, in the mid '90s, the Grandin was like a second run theater. And so it was one of those things. I got to see it around February for $1. And and so like I had friends who had seen it prior to that, and they were like, dude, they keep you guessing the whole movie, like who's the killer. And so it was great. I'm so glad no one spoiled it for me going into it. And yeah, like when you watch the movie the first time through, it's like you just it's impossible to figure out who the killer is. But then you watch it a second time, and it's like there's no way it could be anybody else. You're watching, and it's always got to be Billy and Stu.
It really does. You see their reactions to each other.
Oh yeah, and you can sit there and you can watch you know which one of them is behind the mask each time they're on screen, because of their different mannerisms, the way they carry themselves.
You do.
And
it's crazy. You can't unsee it.
No, yeah. I can't remember. I don't know if it was a YouTube video I saw or an article I read where somebody had actually broken down in the first two Scream movies to determine who the actual killer was in each instance, like who killed who. And so it was really, really well done, really well thought out. And then after I saw that video or read that article, like I said, I can't remember what it was, and then saw the movie again, I was like, wow, that is spot on. Like they have different styles, like both of them. And so you can tell who's who when they are moving around in the costume. So really well executed by both actors. And the writing, the direction. This is a true horror classic. Excuse me. I'm getting so excited. I'm inhaling my spit. Did you know that Wes Craven makes a cameo as Fred the janitor?
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know who he was really, back then. But yeah, I did learn that later. Yeah. So he's like,
and did you notice who he's dressed like?
He's dressed like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
he's got the outfit. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching it. I remember thinking that it was, first of all, the idea of there being two killers never crossed my mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then I was certain that it was Dewey. I came to it and I was like, he is too campy for this. He's something's up with him, And
he's faking the Keystone Cop thing way too much.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And then to be wrong, so wrong,
Man, I was way off.
Way off. But and the way that the movie ends, as you get to that moment that they reveal themselves, especially after Billy, faking his, being stabbed or being killed, that whole scene from then on, you're blown away because you're in this reeling. Wait, what, two? And then they're playing off of each other, and then all of that happens so fast at the end. When I watched it day before yesterday, again the first one, I was like, gosh, that this movie went fast,
Yeah.
even now,
Yeah,
crazy.
the pace of the movie is really quick. And then yeah, like he said, when you get to that third act, it's just like,
Brah.
yeah, like just pick up speed, hit warp speed, and then you're done. It's like, but I love that last bit where Billy and Stu are explaining their whole plan,
Yeah,
and first confessing to killing Sydney's mother a year ago,
right,
and then talking about how they're framing her dad, and how they plan to be the survivors so that they can plan the sequel. And oh
right,
my gosh, it's so great. And the way that they interact with each other. I mean, clearly Billy is the mastermind, the psychopath behind everything. And
right.
Stu is just along for the ride because Stu clearly has a crush on Billy. I mean, are we agreed on that? I mean, there's got to be something else there.
Yeah,
But you know, Billy, being a sociopath, has no feelings and is ready to kill Stu because what he stabbed him too hard, and so
right.
he's just like gutting him.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
it's
Yeah,
I'm bleeding real bad here, man.
yeah.
Gosh,
What a way to
such
go.
a great movie. Just overall fantastic. We ready to move on to Scream 2?
Yeah, and as we do, my expectations for sequels are probably about as low as anyone else's,
Especially
and
for horror
yours for horror
sequels.
sequels, yeah. With the exception, of course, you know, the Jason movies. The
Oh
second
yeah,
one's really good.
they get better every
Very
time.
right. They well, well, um, but that sequel, we came into it, and it was highly anticipated, but I think I was probably cynical going into it, going, "All right, here we go. What more can you do here?" And
So
I loved it. But go
yeah,
ahead.
no, this one's a worthy follow up. It was released 1 year later, December of '97. Again, Craven comes in to direct, Williamson comes in to write. And originally, when Kevin Williamson submitted his script for Scream, he had submitted a treatment for 2 and 3 as he sold it as a trilogy, and so he was hoping for a franchise from the start.
Yeah.
And of course, Scream was a huge hit, and so it didn't take them any time to greenlight a sequel. The last movie survivors, Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Jamie Kennedy, all return. um, this time they're joined by Jerry O'Connell, Timothy Oliphant, Jada Pinkett, Omar Epps, Liev Schreiber,
Schreiber.
Sarah
At least
Michelle
that's how I
Gellar.
know.
That makes sense. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Laurie Metcalf, and we also get glimpses of Rebecca Gayheart, Portia de Rossi, and Joshua Jackson as students at Windsor College. It earned $172.4
Crazy.
million at the box office and currently sits at 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, which means it has fared better than the original. Thoughts on Scream 2?
So first of all, just the star-studded cast again. It's just like they doubled down.
Right.
To be able to get Sarah Michelle Gellar, Joshua Jackson, in the movie as well. I can't remember when Skulls came out.
2000.
Oh, so it was just
So it
after
was a
this?
couple years
Okay,
after
gotcha.
that. Yeah.
But everybody knew who he was from Mighty Ducks, right? And of course, Sarah Michelle Gellar, had already been around. Had I Know What You Did Last Summer come out yet? So
that came out. Well,
it was
yeah,
somewhere around there,
97. That came out about the same year.
but she was already getting her own notoriety as well.
Yeah, she
So
was already Buffy. So
already Buffy. So it's crazy. And then of course Jerry O'Connell and Timothy Oliphant. I didn't come to know or appreciate him until much later for other
yeah,
things that he had done. But just a whole lot of star-studded casting. And I mean, I loved the movie. Although the last act of Scream is my favorite and can't be topped by any other Scream movie because of what it did for me when I first saw it. I will say I really like Scream 2 in its entirety, maybe even more than the first one, just because of the pace, the plot, all over the place, who's what. But yeah, that's me. What about you?
I so I do like the original better overall. But as we have both said, this is definitely a worthy follow-up. And they do ramp up the excitement being on a college campus. um you know they bring in new characters who make sense to be there. It's not like, here's just this crew of individuals that we hope together will gel together somehow. um you know Jerry O'Connell as the new love interest for Sydney. Derek. Yeah, Derek. um they brought in Cotton Weary, Liev Schreiber's character,
Which was good. They did that. That was good.
He was barely a cameo in the first one,
right?
But we knew his character was the guy who was wrongfully convicted of Maureen Prescott's murder,
right?
Prior to the events of Scream. And so now he's out. He's been exonerated, and he's looking for his 15 minutes of fame.
Right.
Gail Weathers is back to being who she is and was.
Right.
And she's written her book, and it's been turned into a movie within a movie, which is it's crazy too. Which that to me was like, when the movie opened on that, it's like, this is something that I was not expecting at all.
Right.
Where we've got this, we're watching a horror movie, and they are watching the events of the movie that we just finished watching.
Right.
It's like, how are they doing this? Yeah, the Stab franchise within the Scream franchise is probably the ballsiest, most ambitious. I don't know. Like, I kind of want to see these movies.
I know. Point. Well, do you see? Wasn't it Heather Graham who played?
Heather Graham was Drew Barrymore's character Casey.
I love that Sydney was played by Tori Spelling, because she makes the joke in the first one that she'd probably, her luck, she'd be starred by Tori Spelling.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
They mentioned that David Schwimmer played Dewey. We don't see that, but they mention it. And who is it? It's
Wilson. Luke Wilson.
Plays Billy.
Plays Billy. That was a really funny scene.
Yeah.
When they were replaying that, and at the end he goes, "Oh, stupid."
So I feel like if we were to get a version of Stab, it would be like a really bad B-movie version of Scream.
Scream, I know, right?
And I think I would love every second.
Oh yeah, for sure, no question. Yeah, no, it's such a good movie too. The college campus aspect and it opening up in that was a big deal. This is, again, because you have, from the get-go, you have Jada Pinkett and you have Omar Epps, and that scene in the theater, in public, and that whole thing was like, oh, that's a new level.
Yeah.
For them both to die that way. And then to go from there, and then you have Sarah Michelle Gellar die, and that whole scene where, just crazy.
I'll say this, as a Buffy fan, it was really hard for me to see her as the victim. Going from Buffy to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then to this, I'm like, what is happening here? You're supposed to pull out a stake and take care of this guy.
Yeah. She did not. She did not take care of the guy.
Got thrown off a balcony.
Yeah. The and then the aspects of like Dewey coming back in. I liked Gail's character more in the second one than I did the first one. And I liked David Arquette's character less.
Oh,
Dewey's
really?
character less. Um, but I still like the movie overall. Now the end of it, that was interesting. Of course, Timothy Olyphant being the bad guy is great because he's just awesome and plays crazy in his eyes. He's like, oh yeah, he does that whole thing. The Billy Loomis mom thing was okay, but it wasn't as, I think you're coming off of such an earth-shattering, reveal in the first one. It's hard to top. So it wasn't as ooh, for me as the other one was.
Yeah, and that one, like, certainly didn't see that coming. Because obviously she's using a false name throughout the entire movie.
Right.
And
Didn't see it coming at all. Me
and
either.
then watching it back, I was like, did she not have any scenes with, where
That's
she's
exactly what I
close to
thought,
Sydney? And
because
because
that would have
Sydney
been a hole.
recognizes her, she
Right.
sees her, and like, yeah, she's had a makeover and she's changed her appearance, but she still recognizes her. So did they not have any scenes where they're close together?
Pretty
Apparently they
chancy.
didn't. And
Pretty chancy though.
and so it's like, wow, that is, yeah, with her being as close to everything going on as a reporter, you'd think that she would have accidentally bumped into Sydney at some point.
Right.
But she, apparently the character was very careful about that.
She was
And
very careful.
and it was, I thought that was great, where she comes in at the end, and she just completely craps on Mickey's whole reasoning behind it, that it's about the trial, and she's like, that whole trial thing, that's stupid. Like, it, for me, my motive is just good old fashioned revenge.
Right.
And
That was
like,
a good line.
that's great. I mean, you are still psychotic, but
But it's a mom.
that is a motive that makes sense. You're a mom whose kid was killed by this girl, and
Right.
I mean, how, although you left, you left
Yeah.
Billy, and
Yeah,
that's what turned him into a psycho. He
Right.
screwed him up royally.
Probably nudged him.
Well,
He was probably
genetics too,
little psycho. But
that's what
I
drove
think
him over the edge.
I didn't see it coming. So I did see Timothy Olyphant. I remember thinking that it's probably him. I remember thinking it was Jerry O'Connell at one point during watching it the first time. But that's what the movie does. It takes you all around. But I didn't expect her to be the mom or her to be involved at all. So kudos for that. When I did learn it, and I was just like, well, that's good. You know what I mean? It wasn't like in the first one where it was like, what?
Right.
Of course, and
it wasn't really a surprise to see Mickey pull off the mask.
no.
But I'm with you. I for a while I thought that Derek was in on it at some point. Because he, it just seemed too suspicious, and we've already had the experience of not being able to trust the love interest.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just seems like he would be a good pick as the other killer. But of course, then Mickey shoots him in the chest, and that's it.
That's that.
So yeah, pretty.
I think it ends well, as far as the end goes. And then of course he jumps out and shoots him, and then Sydney takes the gun and shoots the mom. She's like, just in case.
Yeah,
that's it.
They always come back for one last scare. And poor Dewey. I mean, getting stabbed in the back in 2 different movies. I mean, come on, man.
Well, that him surviving that was like, really, but whatever, whatever.
I mean, good for him.
Much like we'll talk about Scream 6 later. There's where a person gets stabbed. It's funny how in these movies someone gets stabbed and they have another scene, just go home. I got stabbed. It was about 4 inches in, but I'm okay.
I don't need those internal organs. They're fine.
No, luckily it missed all the internal organs. 4 inches in, outside of internal organs, I'm fine.
Good thing I had all that fat there.
Just bounced off.
Scream 3. Are we into Scream 3 now?
All right. So probably if there was one that was not I wouldn't say my least favorite because I like them all, but the one that I go very forgettable, it's 3.
Yeah.
It's not that I appreciated what they had done. I liked that there was only one killer to try to throw you off after you had kind of a progression. But overall, I was like, now you're pushing the whole movie thing and the whole, that whole genre thing a little bit more.
Yeah.
I thought it pushed the envelope. What about you?
Well, let's get through this stuff, the details. You got it came out in February of 2000. Wes Craven once again directing, well, as he should be. But this time the writing duties are handed over to Aaron Kruger because Kevin Williamson was too busy doing other projects. He wasn't able to devote time to fleshing out the entire screenplay. But Kruger, yeah, I think so. I really do think it was there's a lot to be said about the fact that Williamson did not write this script. Not that Aaron Kruger is a bad screenwriter. It's just it did not have Kevin Williamson's fingerprints on it.
Right.
Now Kruger did base his script on the treatment that Williamson had originally written when he sold the script for the first movie, but it just from like you were saying, I feel the same way. It kind of fell flat. Again, the previous film survivors return. You got Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and this time Liev Schreiber to round out the cast that rounds out the trilogy. You get Patrick Dempsey steps in, Scott Foley, Lance Henriksen, Jenny McCarthy, Emily Mortimer, Parker Posey, Patrick Warburton, and even Jay and Silent Bob show up. Part 3 pulls in $161.8 million at the box office and has a rotten 41% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's what I would expect.
Well earned, 41%, if you ask me. I was going to ask, is it the weakest of the franchise, or do we consider it underrated?
I would say it's the weakest.
There you go. Me too.
I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. Especially because as we talk about 4, 5, and 6, I feel like you're redefining in those, and I feel like this third movie was kind of trying to clean up, or not clean up, but trying to mooch off of the other ones, a bit more. It reminded me of Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. It's just like the same. It no longer was redefining. It was now just expected, and that's hard. It's hard to pull out surprises when you come through. It's almost like I think about, you remember when Sixth Sense came out, and what a big deal that was, and that big reveal in that movie at the end, and then you have all of his other movies after that. It's just like, oh, you just can't get back to that, can you?
Yeah,
that was the one.
You're always waiting for that Shyamalan twist,
right? And so, like, this is the same way. Now, again, the sequel did amazing, but the third one, the only thing that I can think that could have been done different is if they had maybe made Sydney the bad guy or something like that, but that would have been the end of it. But I don't know what could have been done differently, other than I just was at that point like, another Scream movie,
The thing I want to see done different, and this is not something that they've done in any of the Scream movies here to date. I would love for the killer to be someone who's just not connected at all. Like, just not part of the friend group, not someone that you see the entire movie. It's just some random psychopath who puts on the ghost face costume. That would subvert expectations, would it not?
It would. But that sounds like something Ryan Johnson would say.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not okay with that. But sometimes the random aspect is hard, because you got the detective going along, and maybe it depends on who's watching it. For me, I love, it's like watching the Agatha Christie movies they have going on now. the Murder on the Orient, or even say the Knives Out that's going on. You know, I love figuring it out. I'm playing in my head. All right, who could it be? Who could it be? I'm playing it. And if I'm close at the end, I feel a sense of accomplishment, you know. And if I'm wrong at the end, I still feel awesome because I was like, you got me, you know. So it just being random makes it like it's just, what's that movie that we were talking about where the people get, was it Scott Speedman and who was that we talked about where they're just getting assaulted?
Oh, The
You know?
Strangers.
The Strangers, right? It's like that, just like senseless killing. And I like the fact that you're trying to figure it out, you know. That's me.
Yeah.
But the movie just, you know, I think just played a little too much on itself, and it had a hard time. So
I thought that the voice changing device that they use in this one had multiple voices, and
right.
I thought that was a little over the top, because I mean, it's one thing to have a voice warper that makes you sound like Ghostface. It's another thing entirely for what are we supposed to believe that you just somehow captured the voices of David Arquette and who else is he? Sydney's mother.
Right.
You've got these voices just stored in this device and you can just use it willy-nilly. No.
Right.
That's over the top. You know, for a movie that, or a franchise that has, you know, for the most part kept itself grounded in a certain bit of reality, you know, because I mean, because this isn't like other slasher movies where your killer comes back time after time. These are mortal people. These are
Right.
just regular human beings who at the end they get what's coming to them, and that's it. They're dead.
Right. Well, and the other part too is you really could have just omitted 3 and just had 4 as 3, you know, years later down the line. And that would have just been fine, in my opinion. You know, just had it not had to happen, that there had to be a 3rd one. And then later on it comes. Sometimes having 2 movies is just fine. You know, and sometimes having just one movie.
Sometimes having one is perfect.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, we've said enough about that. That movie's
yes.
a dumpster fire. Scream 4, we thought we were done with the franchise. It wrapped things up nicely at the end of the trilogy. Well, nicely. More than a decade later, Scream 4 hit cinemas in April of 2011. Wes Craven once again returns to direct, but this is the last time we see Wes Craven in the director's chair.
Right.
Kevin Williamson comes back to pen the script, and he did treatments for sequels again that would make up a second trilogy, depending on how well Scream 4 did in the box office.
Right.
You've got legacy characters played by Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. They are joined by a new generation of young actors, including Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, and Rory Culkin. And you get a lot of new grown-ups in the movie too. Got Anthony Anderson, Adam Brody, Mary McDonnell, Marley Shelton, and Alison Brie. This is the lowest grossing installment, in earning only $97.2 million at the box office, which says a lot for why there wasn't an immediate Scream 5 and 6.
Right.
And this one has a score of 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not too bad.
Right.
Initially, like I said, the thought was if this performed well, it would lead to another trilogy, but it underperformed, and sadly, Wes Craven passed away in 2015. So that pretty much sealed the fate on any kind of continuation of the franchise,
Right.
For the time. So what are your thoughts on Scream 4? Let me hear what you got, because this came out of left field. I remember when it came out, I was like,
yeah,
because there was no way to anticipate, you know, like we said. I mean, the Scream 3 was intended to be the end. That was the third part of the trilogy, and that was
supposed to be done. Right. Well, I think we were starting to get into the revamp phase, you know, of things as you look at 2011 and you look at the 2010 to 2020 era, you know, of these extra movies that were made, you know, whether it's a Rocky movie like we talked about before, you know, or it's a Rambo movie, or it's a Terminator movie. There's so many things that were just getting revamped as an extra. And for me, it had been so much time since the first one. I mean, at 2000, I graduated high school, and so now, you look at 2011. Now I'm an adult, and I'm like, oh yeah, love Scream, happy to see it. I never really saw it like they were going to revamp this series. I had no idea that they were thinking about doing another 3. I just thought it was going to be, oh great, good to see Nev Campbell again after all these years, and here you go. And so when I saw it, I walked in, and I didn't see it in the theater. I waited until it came out on Netflix, and I got the little Netflix things they got in the mail, and I watched it then. And I enjoyed it. I thought the ending was cool. And I think part of it too, when I learned that Emma Roberts was Eric Roberts' daughter and Julia Roberts' niece, I was like, oh well, there you go. I just thought that was cool. So I enjoyed it. I know it gets bad reviews, but I have to say I liked it a lot more than 3.
Oh yeah,
so
it's better than 3. I do like the reveal at the end with Jill being the mastermind behind all of this, and even her motive behind it. Hating being in the family of Sidney Prescott, and having to have that legacy ahead of her or behind her, and wanting the spotlight for herself, which is just, it's crazy. And then what really, I don't know, gets me is the very end. So it's brilliant the way that she she's wrapped everything up. She thinks she's killed Sydney. She's killed everybody else, and now she is staging the scene so that she looks like she was a victim too.
Yep.
And she's the sole survivor, and it's really well done the way she does it. And then she gets to the hospital, and Dewey makes the mistake of letting her know that Sydney's still alive. It's touch and go, but it looks like she's going to make it. And I was watching it, and I'm like, watching it again, and I was like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going into Sydney's room in the ICU. You're just going to strangle her to death, and what's that going to look like? I mean, they're going to see that she was strangled to death, and what are you going to say? I mean, you're clearly doing this, and I don't know. Like, what is going through this person's head at this point? You wanted to be the hero that walked away from all of this. Apparently that was a change to the script that Kevin Williamson was not happy about.
Oh, really? Were they going to have Sydney die for real?
No, they were going to have her survive, but the potential was she was going, like, so if they had made 5 the way that they intended at that point, they were going to have Jill and Sydney survive, but Sydney was going to potentially have some kind of memory loss. And so she would not have remembered that Jill confessed everything, and Jill would have returned as the killer or the anti-heroine. And I think they would have done a sort of like some kind of thing where the next Ghostface killer was coming after her, because they figured out that she was the actual killer from the previous movie. So that would have been an interesting twist, but alas, that did not happen. And we got the movie where Jill dies in the end, and of course Sydney survives.
I wish Jill had not died at the end. Actually, I wish Jill had been caught and had just gone to jail and gone into a mental institution. I would have. That's what I would have preferred to have happened. It was fine, the way it ended out. That's probably. There's only 2 things about that movie that I was like, meh, but I just got over it. One were the dynamics of Ghostface and just the size, like of like when you're watching the movements and you're just trying to the physicality of it,
Mhm.
and you're looking at it and you're saying, gosh, is that really plausible that that person could have done this? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Nothing against, what people can do, but it just that some of that was just like, you know, and then the other part was that part about just how I was like, this really could have been more like a uh screaming against the plate glass, while she's being, in the psych ward,
Yeah.
just just whatever. But um yeah, that's probably all would say about the fourth one.
Yeah, that physicality thing, that's gonna come up for me in the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I get what you're saying because both of them, Emma Roberts and Rory Culkin, they're not big characters. They're like even he, who you would think the guy would be stronger or whatever, he's not a well built guy.
No,
He's
no.
a skinny kid.
Right. And
Not that there's
short,
anything
right?
wrong with
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, I mean they're both the same height.
yeah, they're both the same
Um,
height.
so for them to have been able to pull off the acts that they did, it seems a little far fetched, but
Right.
um, you get what you get, and
Right.
you don't throw a fit. All right, so Scream 2022, it was a long road, but Scream the requel, as they call it, was released last year, directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. Two names I've never seen before Scream. It was written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, obviously based on characters created by Kevin Williamson. Scream 4 survivors all come back, or at least the ones we assume survived. Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Marley Shelton all return. This time the torch is successfully passed to a new generation represented by Melissa Barrera, Jack Quaid, Jenna Ortega, Mikey Madison, Dylan Minette, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Mason Gooding. This brings the numbers back up to on the box office side to $137 million, which is no small task in a post-COVID world. And it pulled in a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thoughts on Scream 5?
I liked Scream 5. I didn't like it as much as I liked 1 and 2. But I thought, it's a worthy of a chance and opportunity. I appreciated the twists. I appreciated the brother and sister duo that was in both 5 and 6. The idea of Billy Loomis having a daughter was quite a twist for me.
Yeah.
Did not even think remotely, but it was so helpful because that got you tied in and invested. And it's hard to do, right? Because if you're going to introduce these two characters, and of course Jenna Ortega is at that point no one,
Right.
really, compared to who she is now.
Whereas now she is Hollywood's it girl.
Oh, she definitely is. Yeah, but you come at this and to get you invested in this pair, I think they pulled it off well,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. So Jack Quaid, same thing. I mean, I was just like with Emma Roberts. I was like, he's Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son. I like him. All right, I'm going to watch this movie. So the aspect of him being the killer was awesome. Loved that. Loved it, and I thought he did it great. The aspect of the girl being the killer, I was like, ugh, only because it was just like she was so darkish, I guess. And anyway, it was just like, these two, I don't know, but I rolled with it. But I was so happy with him that it was fine, for me. The ending though was a bit much, as far as survivability. That was a bit much. Just saying.
there was a lot going on there at the end. And
I know,
yeah,
right?
the whole the we've reached the point, I think, in the franchise where you just have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um
sure.
because yeah, I mean, Gail got shot in the gut and did not seek treatment for, I mean, however long it took for the third act to wrap up.
She doesn't need it.
Sydney got stabbed in the gut, and I mean, that was no like shallow cut. That was a knife went straight into her to the hilt. Uh and there's
Yeah.
no way that's not causing internal damage, but she's walking around like nothing's wrong.
Do you know though? I don't know about you. I could have done without them in the movie, to be honest. Other than Nev Campbell maybe being in there for tying that in with Billy Loomis's family, that aspect. But I really think, and this is just me, I really think Courtney Cox could have exited out and not been a part of it after 4. Then again, of course, the Dewey aspect, you gotta have her. That was really hard. That was a hard thing
Yeah.
to see Dewey go.
Yeah. You know, so I feel like at this point it was important for them to kill somebody off. It's
Yeah,
almost like uh The Force Awakens kind of deal, where you've got the legacy characters who come back,
right,
and Han Solo gets killed.
right.
So I feel like that almost had to happen to somebody.
It would have been good if they both died together, though. You know what I mean? That would have been
No,
better, in my
I
opinion.
mean, it made sense for it to be Dewey. Um, Although, knowing what we know about who the killers were, it did not make sense for Amber, the little girl who was behind the mask there in the hospital, the one who killed Dewey, to be able to put a knife in his gut and a knife in his back and pick him up using those knives. I'm sorry. I don't buy that for a second.
That was a bit much.
She
Yeah.
couldn't bench press the bar.
Now, had it been different, where it had been, Jack Quaid, it would have been
Sure.
more believable.
I'll buy
But
that.
yeah, but
No,
not
not
yeah,
that kid.
no,
No.
no way. Yeah, so that was a little hard. Now, again, I talked about the brother and sister, and they were Randy's. They were related to Randy, right?
Right. Randy's niece and
Niece,
nephew.
nephew. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And it was one of those tie-ins that really had no bearing on anything, except it just, again, I think just like the Billy Loomis thing that got you connected to this girl, it also kind of got you a little, oh yeah, Randy,
Yeah.
and it just kind of helped you to get invested a little bit in these characters. And
And
I really liked them both.
I think it's great that Mindy, the niece, is she's kind of inherited Randy's love of movies,
Right. Yeah, she's become that person.
and so yeah, she's the one who is there to explain basically the rules of these
Right.
movies that
Right.
we're in, since we don't have Randy around to do that for us anymore.
Right.
So that's a great callback to his
To
character.
his character, yeah.
And yeah, so gosh, where
Before I forget,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
love her line in the latest one, 6, where she's like, "Did I miss the monologue again?" That was good. I
That was
like
good.
that.
So yeah, so we've got a lot of death in this new Scream movie. A lot of people don't make it. Of course, David Arquette's character Dewey finally bites it after being stabbed 90 million times throughout the
Yeah.
franchise.
By the way, my favorite of his performances in all the movies, this one was my favorite.
Yeah.
The
He
fifth one.
really did a lot of the heavy lifting, I think, as far as the legacy characters go.
He
Because
really
you're
did.
right. Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox, I'm not going to say the movie could have done without them, but you're right. The movie could have done without them. I'm glad they were there because I want to see these legacy characters. I want to see what happens to them. And knowing how much of this story ties back to them in the beginning,
Yeah.
Makes me want to see either that they become a victim, or what's the line from Dark Knight? They either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted. I mean, I know we haven't gotten into 6 yet. We'll talk about this in a minute. But I legit thought from the beginning, oh, this is Sydney. Sydney's now going after this movie is going to be about Sydney going after all these crazy people that are trying to become Ghostface. And she's like, and this movie is going to be about that. And of course, it was not at all that, because they did not give Nev Campbell enough money.
No. And we will definitely talk about that. So wrapping up last year's Scream, before we get into the spoilers of Scream 6, any other thoughts?
Did not like Jenna Ortega in that movie at all.
In the last one?
Yeah, in the last one. And this one, the new one, liked her character a lot. But of course, now I like her because of Wednesday.
I mean, she's basically a pincushion in the first one.
Yeah.
Or in the previous one, yeah.
But
poor thing. I mean, who survives? I mean, you would not expect her to survive as the first girl, right?
I know. And so I should clarify, when I say I didn't like her character, it's not that I didn't like her performance or anything like that. I just mean, like, I was like, geez, and plus she's so small.
Yeah.
She's just a small kid, and it's just like, you're like, what the heck,
She can't have that much blood to begin with, and so she should have bled out. She was stabbed how many times? And through the hand.
Oh my gosh.
Which,
yeah.
When we get into 6, that there's a scene where you clearly see her hand and the scar.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Good.
I had
good touch.
I had to remind myself. I was like, oh, good continuity there.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing I'll say, last thing about it too, is if I was to rank the killers, like rank my favorite of all of them, it would of course be Stu and Billy as number 1 for me. But number 2 would be Jack Quaid. Now, he was my favorite, outside of those. Just because I liked the way he delivered himself at the end.
Oh, Richie. So Amber, the other killer in the last movie, she the girl who plays her, Mikey Madison, I assume I'm saying that right. She was also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Have you seen that one? The Tarantino movie?
Yeah.
She played one of the
one of Manson's
killers. Right. That shows up at DiCaprio's house, and he sets her on fire. That's how she dies. And then she gets set on fire in this one too. I think is there going to be a movie that she's in where she is not somehow combustible?
She's like, I get typecasted for that. That's who I'm known for.
I am a crispy critter in everything I play. I'm good at it.
Let's talk about 6.
All right. So this is the point where, if you have not seen Scream 6, go watch it and then come back and listen to the rest of this podcast. If not, hey, it's been good having you here. Come back next week. We'll have another conversation about something else. But this is where the spoilers kick in.
Well, before we get to the spoilers, let's just say real quick, if we think it's something somebody should watch in the movie, or if it's something that they should just wait and rent or stream. So what's your opinion? Should you spend the $9 to $12, or do you wait?
If you are a horror fan, and especially if you are a fan of the Scream franchise, I would definitely suggest spend the money, see it in the theater. It's worth seeing on the big screen. If it's just one of those passing things that you like a Scream movie every now and then, but it's not like, oh, I have to see this now. I mean, it's not that important. You can just wait till it hits streaming. It's a Paramount movie, so it'll probably be on Paramount Plus in 2 months.
But you can expect that there will be another one. I think. I mean, I think there will absolutely be a third one. And so this is, if you're going to watch 5, you watch 6, there's going to be a 7. So you might as well watch 6.
Absolutely. All right. So spoilers are on now. We round things out with the latest installment, which sees the return of directors Olpen and Gillette, as well as the same writers, Vanderbilt and Busick. Once again, we see the film's latest survivors returning, minus Nev Campbell. We'll get to that. We do get Melissa Barrera as what was her character's name? She's the main character.
Why the older sister?
I don't know. Whatever. Billy Loomis's illegitimate daughter. Jenna Ortega comes back. Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding come back as the twins, who are Randy's niece and nephew. And Courtney Cox is back for one more round. And this time they're joined by Dermot Mulroney, Leanna Liberato, Jack Champion, Devin Nakota, Tony Revolori, who you may know from the Spider-Man trilogy and the Willow series recently, Josh Segarra and Samara Weaving. And who knew that Hayden Panettiere's character survived Scream 4? I did not see that coming until, the trailers started hitting and her presence was obvious. The opening weekend box office take is roughly $67 million worldwide, and the Rotten Tomatoes has it at 75% at the moment. Thoughts on Ghostface Takes Manhattan?
So fun, takes Manhattan. You got this, you think about Jason Takes Manhattan, right?
Right. Which really only took place in New York for about 10 minutes in the whole movie.
I know.
But most of it's on a boat.
What a good death scene. That was a good death scene.
Very disturbing.
Very disturbing, but good. So again, I just want to emphasize, if I said that Gail did not need to be in the 5th one, what I really mean, I'm going to double down on that and say she absolutely did not need to be in the 6th one. Really could have done without Courtney Cox in this movie.
But to be fair, at least this time they came to her.
Yes.
Because she lived in New York.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. They came to her in the last New York,
right?
But she came over once she heard that they were in trouble. Yeah.
So at least this time they're in her town.
So too, while I like Hayden Panettiere from Heroes, I have not seen Nashville, but I hear it's great. Didn't need her to be in the movie either, for that matter. So, there's a couple of things here that were just kind of added in, and I don't feel like Hayden Panettiere's role in 4 was important enough to me to warrant it being a big deal for her to be in this movie. That being said, without going into us talking about the killers at the end real quick, just those were my only critiques of the movie up to the end. So I came into it and I loved how they started it off. I loved how you have this scene with this actress who plays the professor. She's been in a few movies recently, and I love her acting.
Yeah, that's Samara Weaving. She is she's crap. Yeah,
she was in this movie where she gets invited or she gets engaged or something.
Ready or Not.
Guy. Was it?
Yeah, Ready or Not.
Loved that movie.
Yeah,
saw it on a plane. Loved that movie.
Good. She was also in Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yes, she was. She played one of the daughters. I love her acting, but for him for that whole scene and how she gets lured into the alley, and for him to take off the mask right from the get-go, I was like, boom, that was great. Yeah. I thought that was so groundbreaking, different than ever before. And I was like, this is going to be a great movie.
Yeah, I was okay. So I was the same way. Side note, Samara Weaving is I can't remember if she is Hugo Weaving's daughter or his niece, but they are related.
Yes. See, again, another one, awesome.
Yeah. So when Ghostface lures her into the alley, kills her brutally, And then he just kneels down and takes off the mask. I'm like, what?
This is not
This
allowed.
This is completely different from every other Scream movie we've ever seen.
Are
They're
we gonna
revealing the
know?
killer
Are we gonna know
from the
the
start.
killer?
And I'm like, wait a second. This isn't gonna be the real killer. Like
Yeah.
as soon as like we're following this guy, and I'm like,
Yeah.
nope, I don't buy it. I
Nope.
don't buy it at all. And then as soon as he got the phone call, I was like, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
That's
here's the real killer. And
So when that happened,
that you're using his thing. And so yeah.
So when that happened, I'm saying, and he gets the phone call. I'm saying that's Sydney. I didn't know Nev Campbell wasn't in the movie. So I until
Gotcha.
after the movie, because after I literally thought she was in the movie. So as we get farther along the movie and I get towards the end, I'm like, is she just going to do like a cameo at the end? And then she wasn't at all. And I was like, what? Where's Sydney? And then I looked it up and I saw why she wasn't in it. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've got her like a quote that I don't know if she put it on social media.
That. Yeah.
But it says, as a woman, I have had to work extremely hard in my career to establish my value, especially when it comes to Scream. I felt the offer that was presented to me did not equate to the value I have brought to the franchise. It's been a very difficult decision to move on. To all my Scream fans, I love you. You've always been so incredibly supportive to me. I'm forever grateful to you and to what this franchise has given me over the past 25 years. I can't say I disagree with her. I think that it good for her for knowing what she's worth.
Yeah.
And for fighting for what she's worth. And
right.
And to say that she isn't worth what they should have paid her to be in this movie. I mean, she's been the definitive Scream queen for the past 25 years, right? I mean, she's the ultimate final girl. And
we have to be careful too, because like these days you have a camp of people who will be so quick to be like, you're rich anyway, you don't need nothing, you know what I mean, you should just been in it. And then you have people on the other side that's like, you go girl, men are paid way more, and that's true, and appropriately so. But the truth is nobody really knows. And so Nev Campbell could be like being taken advantage of by Warner Brothers, which is it Warner Brothers, right?
Paramount,
yeah. Or she could not. We don't know. But I think the idea is, regardless of whether or not wherever it lands, she's a person who says, I think I'm worth this, and I choose not to be in something that doesn't meet my standards, like you're saying. And that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. It's her call to be able to do that. And she even said, as I read on that she would entertain being in any future installments, should they come back to it with the right price.
Right.
So, so we're at the beginning, and this guy, what's his name again? Because from Spider-Man and Willow, the actor.
Oh, Tony Revolori.
Yeah, I liked it. So he gets the call, and I'm like, that's Sydney. Because again, I didn't know she wasn't in the movie. So that's Sydney totally. And then when he gets to the fridge and it's got the body parts of his roommate, I'm like, oh, I hope that's not Sydney. I'm like, that seems like a stretch that she would just mutilate body parts, and then of course it was not.
And I don't buy that Sydney could turn evil like that. I just don't see it. I don't see her snapping and going off and suddenly becoming a serial killer.
The idea of her becoming, after everything she's gone through, everything she's seen, the idea of her becoming a vigilante, not a serial killer, but a vigilante per se, where she is going after people, that as all of these, you see these little camps of people becoming just whatever. That's what I was thinking. And I could have bought that. I could have bought the vigilante, but it didn't turn out to be that way. And then from then on, once I realized this can't be Sydney, then I was totally in the dark. I was back to playing my games, my detective work, to try to figure out who it was.
Well, can I tell you again, we're well into spoiler territory at this point. I suspected Dermot Mulroney from the time I saw him in the trailer. I was like, Oh, he's got to be the killer. He's definitely the bad guy.
So here's where we go with my last critique about it. Although I've seen many Dermot Mulroney acting performances, this would have to be his worst. I've never seen him act worse in a movie than this movie.
I thought he did fine before the reveal.
I thought he did horrible before the reveal.
Really? I think he was he was fine as a detective, but then when he when you get the big reveal at the end that the killers are him and his secret son and daughter. Well, his daughter wasn't a secret, but Ethan, we didn't know that was his son. When that's revealed, his attitude is so over the top crazy. That's when I lost it with him. I was like, no, this is
I know.
Come on, man.
Oh,
tone it down.
I was fine about the daughter, the daughter being crazy. That was fine. The son as well. I was like, all right. I can ingest that. I can take that in. There's a few moments where he showed concern, and he was where he didn't need to show concern. He was not in a place where he needed to pretend, I didn't think. For example, on the train, on the subway, if his sister is killing, why did he have to go and protect that? Why did he have to do that aspect? See, to me, that was unnecessary, and that was just almost like intentionally meant to throw off an audience when this movie isn't supposed to be. I mean, that's going a little too far with the fourth wall to me.
Well, think about it this way, though. At that point, he's still trying to yes, Mindy had been stabbed in the gut by obviously the sister, and he's still on the train with her without the costume, and he, what if she survives?
Right.
So he's still playing that part for her. I mean, yes, it's for the audience's benefit to keep us thinking that he has nothing to do with it. But at that point, we've seen dozens of people survive getting stabbed in the gut dozens of times. And this is the Scream franchise. Come on. She herself has been stabbed how many times?
We're right at the end of the movie. Had this been something earlier that happened, where you had more time to kind of handle that character, maybe, but we're right there at the end, and it's just like, that's just me. I just thought it was like unnecessary. The kids, though, as far as them being that, it was fine. But Dermot Mulroney, his character, and having three killers was cool. That was cool. That was a new thing, right?
Yeah, that is new to the series. You've never had 3 killers before.
And this is the sequel, just like or the requel, but it's the second one, and just like in the second one of the Scream franchise, it's family related, right? And so
turns out that this is Richie's father and brother and sister, and so they made mention earlier when we thought that Quinn, the daughter, was dead. He comes down, he announces he's off the case, he's in tears, and he says he's lost another child. I remember when he said that, I was thinking, when they haven't mentioned that he's lost a first child,
right?
So who's
his family? He said, now I've lost my entire family.
Yeah.
So I was the same way. I was like,
who else?
Did you lose your wife and your son?
Yeah. So yeah, that was sort of a red flag, but not really. Like it's one of those things, like when you go back and watch it again, it's going to be one of those things. It's like, okay, totally pick that up now.
Right.
But I did think it was really neat there. You're getting to the end of it, and we see two Ghostface killers on screen at the same time. I mean,
Yeah, that was
yes,
cool.
we've seen both killers on screen before,
But
but
not
I
both
mean,
in the
like, but
costume.
not, yeah, not both in costume. And so I was like, oh, they're killing Chad. Oh, he is gutted.
Oh,
And
I
he
thought he was
survived.
dead for
There's
sure.
no
Yeah,
way.
I know. Yeah, there's no way. Um, did you think it was odd just Jenna Ortega and him getting together
I
after
thought
watching the first movie?
I thought it was cute. I mean, they've been friends for a long time, and
I had trouble
obviously
bridging the age gap
they're the
because,
same age.
well, see, that's what I'm saying is that I had trouble bridging the age gap because she and is so small
Right.
and all that. Like she doesn't look old enough to be in college.
Even though in real life she is 20.
Totally. No, totally. But
But
I
yeah,
was like, okay.
yeah, they're the same age. Like they it's one of those things where they grew up together, and so
Right,
I don't know. I thought it was cute because they've been friends for so long,
right,
and obviously he's looking out for her when they're at that
right.
party, and
That was cool. That was a good
there
scene.
is something of a romantic spark between them, and
Sure,
so
sure. No, and he did both. He did a great job with his acting. I thought he did fantastic, and his sister. Um, the as far as like the whole shrine and that whole thing that was made, I thought that was cool because it wasn't Dermot Mulrooney's, it wasn't theirs, it was, Jack Quaid's. It
yeah,
was his,
yeah, it was
and they
Richie's.
were honoring Richie's, thing there. I thought that was cool, how they did that.
Yeah. And that, oh my gosh, that, I mean, like, it was like a whole museum
Oh my gosh, that was
of the
cool to
Scream
see.
franchise. That was really neat.
And all the masks. What did you
Yeah.
think about the heroine kind of being in the Billy psyche, seeing Skeet Ulrich, what did you think
Um,
about all that stuff?
I'm
Do you
glad they
like it or
didn't.
not?
I'm okay with it because, I know that mental illness is hereditary. And so for her to have hallucinations of her father would not be far fetched if she has inherited at least some of his psychosis.
Right,
Obviously, she has because she, even in the first movie, mentions she's on antipsychotics.
right,
Um, so I think that I'm okay with her having those types of hallucinations.
right, right.
Now, should she be having those hallucinations if she is taking her medication? Probably not. But I mean, for the purposes of storytelling and the movie, I get it.
She was too busy running around, she forgot to take it.
Could be, very well could be.
Just like all the characters never go to the bathroom or eat a sandwich or anything.
That's
She
right.
forgot to take her medication.
Yeah, yeah, and those things you can't just not take cold turkey. You got
Yeah.
to wean yourself off.
So let me ask you this: the boyfriend, who that actor, I thought he did a great job. I knew him from the Arrow series.
That's where I recognize him from. He's
Yeah, he's
Prometheus,
from
isn't he?
what?
Prometheus.
Oh, yeah. Or I don't know what the bad guy's name was, but he was that major bad guy. Towards the later
Yeah, he was the
seasons.
big bad one season.
He
Yeah.
was a great bad guy. I liked him a lot.
That's why I recognize him. I thought he looked familiar.
But because he has played villain role, I was like, ooh, you're setting him up. Surely it can't be him. That would be too. And I liked his role, especially because if you remember from the second one, when Sydney is telling Jerry O'Connell, I need you to have space for me. I need space. Jerry O'Connell is not really there, that he can. I mean, he still makes himself involved because it's not as severe, I guess, in their minds. But this character, he looks at her and she's like, you can't come. And he's like, okay, take care of yourself. And I just loved the way that he was with her in that whole thing. I thought his character was cool.
Oh yeah, and I loved earlier in the movie, he specifically tells her, don't trust anyone, not even
Right.
me.
Right.
And like that's great. That's how
right.
It's like he needed to remind her, and she needed that reminder that in these situations where you've got this killer who's very likely somebody in your friend group, somebody you can't trust anybody, and you
Right.
shouldn't trust anybody.
Right.
So I think that wow. Yeah, I really liked his character. I liked the dynamic. I thought they had really good chemistry together too.
Right.
So yeah, I thought he did great. And for him to be the one who called the police
Right.
to be there
It
at the
brought them
end
all in. Well,
was great.
did you think that the whole so I thought that the whole kill box thing was kind of stupid. Like in the theater, there's only one entrance. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then Hayden Panettiere has set that up. And of course, she's worked with the cop or Dermot Mulroney on it. But obviously, everybody got in somehow, some way.
They were
And
already there.
oh, they were already inside. Well, what about the son though? The son was
Oh,
on
that's
the
right. No, he wasn't.
so there was some other entrance that they had come in with, I guess.
That yeah, it
But
had to be.
some of
And
that stuff was just a
because
little bit like, you know,
well, that whole thing was obviously Dermot Mulroney's character just lying. I
just
mean,
no, that right.
I mean, clearly he's lying about Kirby being disgraced from the FBI or
Right.
whatever.
That's
And
right.
so at this point, he's throwing all the lies out there and expecting them to, and obviously they believe him. They believe him over
right, her, right, because she's an outsider. Did you think it was funny though at the end, the very end, when she shoots, the main character, the lady, they're up on the balcony, right?
Mhm.
And she shoots and kills the daughter, right?
Yeah, Quinn.
And then Dermot Mulroney's got the gun, and they are, I don't know,
And he
they've
just
got to
runs
be
at her.
over 10 feet apart. I don't know how far they are, maybe 15 feet apart. And he just he's got a gun. He doesn't shoot at her.
Shoot her. Yeah, what are you doing, man?
Now
They run at
that was
each other.
stupid. That was pretty stupid.
Like, come on, man. I know you just watched your daughter get shot in the face, but I mean, seriously, you are a trained cop. You're a detective. That means you've been on the job for a long time. You should still know how to handle a gun when you are in, a heated situation.
That was stupid. I thought to myself, if they'd have been closer, then it would have been better. But the whole part about Jenna Ortega, and I thought she did a great job dropping her, and then she falls and then uses the knife. I think that was cool.
Of course, he stabs her in the gut, and I'm like, oh no. Oh wait, no, she's everyone gets stabbed in the gut. They're fine. The gut.
Well, now we know she's Wednesday Addams, and the Addams survive anything.
Oh gosh,
So, but I thought, wow, okay, so Gail is gonna die.
Yeah.
So here we are, Gail, she's out
finally,
and then it's like
she's gonna pull through.
She's gonna pull through. Just like,
so,
oh my gosh,
telling me there's a chance.
And then, but I am glad the sister pulled through though, because I really liked her and I'd like to see her again.
And I'm glad Chad pulled through too. As unbelievable as it is.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, seriously, they had to have stabbed him a dozen times in that.
Here's the thing though, Randy wasn't so lucky. Randy gets pulled into the van and he out. He gone. All right, so let me ask you this. So anticipation for Scream 7, which let's assume that's coming out in a year and a half to 2 years. I mean, what do you do from here? How do you round this out?
The Cult of Ghostface.
You think it'll be like a whole lot?
I would love
the Court of Owls.
Did you ever see the show with Kevin Bacon, The Following? You ever watch that back in the early mid 2000s?
I think so. Maybe
Kevin Williamson wrote it. It was a Kevin Williamson show.
Oh, okay.
It was, so the first season was spectacular. Second season, not so much.
Okay.
But it was about so Kevin Bacon's character was I think he was an FBI agent, and think Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter.
Yep.
All right. So he had captured a serial killer, and the serial killer is behind bars. He was played by Oh shoot, what's the actor's name? British actor. He was the prince uh in in The Knight's Tale, Prince Edward. I cannot think of the actor's name. But anyway, he's serial killer, and there is a cult of people on the outside who believe in what he was doing.
Oh,
And they basically worship him as like some kind of cult leader, and there is a plan to not only continue his work in killing, but also to bust him out of prison and have him lead their little commune.
no, there
um
you go.
so I think it would be neat to see something like that, where you know, I mean, obviously Kevin Williamson has stepped away from the franchise and he's not writing them anymore, but it would be cool to see something like that where you've got you're almost like you're paying homage to another story that he told, and you've got this cult of ghost face killers
I wouldn't be
working in
surprised.
unison across the nation, maybe.
I don't think that's a bad idea because the you think about how they started this latest installment, and these guys get this idea, for their film, their film class, that they're going to do this.
We're gonna
I think
finish Richie's movie.
yeah, I think it's very, very plausible. I just don't. I wonder, like, how you shut it down, how you engage that and shut it down. You
Well,
know,
the question, then becomes, are we looking for a way to wrap up the franchise as like Halloween did this year, or are we looking for just another sequel?
yeah, because I think what you're facing here is to destroy an idea is the harder part. Michael Myers, you know, I mean, yeah, you can decapitate and you can set on fire, but you put that guy in a meat
A
grinder,
grinder.
a grinder,
Yeah,
that'll do it.
he's done.
That's
He's
it.
not. You don't come back from that.
You don't go back. Yeah. So, but this is an idea. And so it's almost like, it's the question that we face online with social media, the idea of some of the hateful things that go on online, social media, and ideas, and having moral responsibility with what you engage in. Because you think about like Scream 2, for example. Scream 2, Stab is in the theater, and you see this filled up theater with Ghostface. The studios provided, everybody's like pretending to stab everybody. So when Jada Pinkett Smith gets killed, it's just like everybody just thinks it's part of the thing. It's just the sadistic humor, and that permeates that culture and can permeate our culture, right? And
Mhm.
being desensitized. So you got to wonder if this third installment, if they did something like that, would be almost even a comment on what you indulge in, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very thought provoking, what those sort of things.
Well, I mean, for sure, it'll be like, and that's something you say about each of the Scream movies, is that they are a very well thought out commentary of, not just horror in general, but pop culture, or
Pop culture.
and like
Yeah.
culture around us.
Right.
The state of things and the state of being, and definitely make a comment on it. I think that's why I would say that this is my favorite franchise when it comes to horror, because it's they're thinkers. These
Yeah.
they're very well thought out. I mean, some better than others, obviously, but they're well thought out stories, and the in so many of them, the dialogue is just so tightly
Yeah. It
written
it is very well
that
written. Yeah.
you get a lot of comments on what society is and isn't.
Well,
um
right. And you get three camps of people, really. You get people who make light of things and who just indulge in just lighthearted making fun of people being killed, and just having a detachment from the reality and severity of what's happened. You get that shown in every single movie. there's always not just a few characters, but a lot of people who are just absolutely horrific.
Well, think about how many of these movies
compass.
end in parties.
Right. Yeah. Parties. Yeah. During all this stuff happened. And then you've got, of course, you've got some character who is the warped character who ends up being the killer, who has distorted reality and is a sociopath and has this crazy motive. And then you have a very, very few characters in the movie who actually have a moral compass. You have the main character who's trying to figure out their thought process, their world. And then you have these characters who are a bit of a moral compass for them to help them guide along the way. But it's always those three, always in this movie, you know? Yeah. And I love that. I think it's pretty awesome. Not to make it like it's some deep movie, but there are deep elements in common society. Yeah. It's art, you know.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move into trivia time?
Let's go to trivia.
Trivia. Okay. Kevin Williamson, while also known for creating Dawson's Creek, has also written several other horror movies. Which of these movies starred Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sarah Michelle Gellar based on a book by Lois Duncan?
Is it I Know What You Did Last Summer?
It sure is. Way different from the book. The book was like,
oh, really?
So different. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a book. Really?
Yeah. In high school, I went through a phase of because I read I Know What You Did Last Summer after seeing the movie, and I read several of Lois Duncan's books. They're actually pretty good if you cool. Like some young adult type high schoolish
that genre at the time. All right.
What actress and script doctor had a cameo as Bianca Burnett in Scream 3?
Actress and film director?
Script doctor.
Oh, script doctor.
She was often brought in to punch up some dialogue in scripts throughout the 90s.
Kathleen Kennedy.
I don't know. Not an actress.
Throw it a name.
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher. Oh, right. Carrie Fisher. That's right. I was just throwing out a name. Sorry.
Good attempt. Way off base.
Yeah, way off base.
All right. Ghostface was originally named by what character? Who first coined the word Ghostface in naming the killer?
Was it Randy?
It was not, but it was from the first movie. I'll give you one more guess.
Was it Tatum?
It was Tatum. Please,
yeah.
Mr. Ghostface, don't kill me. I want to be in the sequel.
Yeah, that's right. When she's in the garage. Yeah.
All right. Dewey is just a nickname. What is Deputy Riley's real name?
Dwight?
It is Dwight.
Yeah.
All right. And final question. We've already talked about this. Will there be a Scream 7?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Unquestionably.
Just the question is, when will Scream 7 come out? I mean, it's
18
it came in this one out pretty quick. The last
but this was affected by COVID, right?
The last one was affected by COVID.
The last one. And so I think that might have delayed it. I mean, typically you're looking at 2 years. I would think it's going to be 2025.
Well, I mean, you had 1 year between Scream 1 and 2. You had 1 year between this one and the last one.
It's a matter of if they've even started production. So
right.
just
if they've got a story in mind and are already working on a script, then I'm sure it's just a matter of, when does it get greenlit?
Yeah, you got to know this duo director and writer, they're all this. It's already been planned out. So
I'm sure. I would hope so.
It's either late 2024 or it's early 2025. I'll bet you anything.
And I hope the studio, if you've got a good part for Sydney and it makes sense to bring her back, pay her what she's worth, guys.
Pay her what she's worth.
You've got the money. The movie's going to make the money back. It is. Just shut up and write the check.
At the same time, if you want to be done with Courtney Cox, although I like Courtney Cox, here's an avid fan that says it's time to be done with Courtney Cox.
Man, you just don't like
not a hater. I like Monica. I like Monica.
Sure. It's just Gale Weathers I don't like. All right. So that is it for our Scream franchise discussion. Coming up next week. What are we doing next week? Oh, Shazam! A Fury of the Gods is coming out next week. So that will be our discussion next week, and we'll touch a little bit on what the heck is happening with the DC universe overall as far as these movies go. So be sure to come back for that.
Also, we're going to analyze how Zachary Levi can have that much makeup and age still in this movie.
He's older than me, isn't he?
He is very apparently older in this movie than he was in the first one. The man is showing his age, and so yeah.
I mean, he's no Harrison Ford, right?
Just yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. If you have enjoyed what you've experienced here, share it with people you know. Maybe they'll like it too. Of course, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple podcasts or whatever, YouTube, all the things. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you want to leave a message in the comments, we will be happy to read your comments, as long as they're appropriate, right here on the show, and give you a shout out, because who wouldn't like a shout out, right? All right. That is it. Landon, anything else you want to add before we take off?
Thanks for taking the time to listen. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
All right. Have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.
Bye-bye.